In the shadowed folds of history, where time has layered dust over buried truths, there exists a treasury of sacred writing scrolls, codices, and fragments that once burned brightly in the hearts of ancient believers, but now lie forgotten, condemned, or erased from the annals of faith. These are the forbidden scriptures, the apocryphal texts, the silenced voices of mystics, prophets and seekers who dared to transcribe their visions of the divine. For centuries they have rested in desert caves, crumbling monasteries, and sealed archives, their words obscured by the hands of time and the decrees of those who shaped the boundaries of orthodoxy. Today we embark on a journey to unearth these lost texts, to breathe life into their faded ink, and to confront the questions that have haunted scholars, mystics, and seekers across generations. Why were these writings cast aside? What truths did they hold that threatened the guardians of faith? And what might they reveal to us in this modern age about the nature of divinity, the human soul, and the unseen battles that have shaped our spiritual heritage? This is not merely a tale of ancient manuscripts, but a story of rebellion, revelation, and resilience, a narrative that challenges the boundaries of doctrine and invites us to see the divine through a lens untainted by centuries of control. So, join me as we step into the shadows of history, where the forgotten scrolls await, whispering secrets that could redefine our understanding of faith. The year was 1945. The deserts of Upper Egypt shimmered under a relentless sun. The small town of Nag Hammadi. A young Bedouin shepherd named Muhammad Ali al-Sayman stumbled upon a clay jar half buried in the arid earth. Hoping for treasure, he shattered the vessel. But instead of gold, he found 13 leather-bound codices, their papyrus pages brittle, yet miraculously preserved. These were no ordinary texts. They were the Nag Hammadi Library, a collection of over 50 writings, many of them Gnostic scriptures texts, condemned as heretical by the early Christian Church and excluded from the canonical New Testament. Among these codices were the Gospel of Thomas, a collection of 114 sayings attributed to Jesus. The Gospel of Philip, with its poetic reflections on the mysteries of faith. And the Secret Book of John, a cosmological treatise describing a divine realm beyond the material world. These texts offered a vision of Christianity, unlike the one enshrined in the canonical Gospels. They spoke of inner enlightenment, mystical knowledge, gnosis, and a direct connection to the divine, unmediated by ecclesiastical authority. Were not narratives of miracles or martyrdom, but meditations on the soul's journey too. Transcendence. The Nag Hammadi find was not an isolated discovery. Across centuries, other forgotten texts have surfaced, each peeling back layers of history, to reveal a world of faith far more diverse than the official canon suggest. In 1947, the Dead Sea Scrolls were uncovered in the caves of Qumran, revealing a Jewish sect likely the Essenes whose apocalyptic and mystical writings challenged the uniformity of rabbinic Judaism. The Book of Enoch, revered by early Jewish and Christian communities, describes angelic rebellions and cosmic battles, yet was excluded from both the Hebrew Bible and the New Testament. The Gospel of Mary Magdalene, found in fragments in the late 19th century, portrays a female disciple as a central figure in Jesus' teachings, a role that unsettled the patriarchal structures of the early church. Why were these texts buried? Why were they sealed in jars, hidden in caves, or burned by those who claimed to safeguard divine truth? To answer these questions, we must journey back to the tumultuous centuries when the boundaries of faith were forged in fire and ink. In the early centuries of Christianity, the faith was a vibrant tapestry of competing voices. Jewish Christians saw Jesus as the Messiah within the framework of Torah observance. Pauline Christians emphasized salvation through faith in Christ's death and resurrection. Gnostics sought gnosis, a direct experiential knowledge of the divine that transcended ritual or doctrine. Each group had its own sacred texts, rituals, and interpretations of Jesus' mission. But as Christianity spread across the Roman Empire, the need for unity became pressing. By the 4th century, under the patronage of Emperor Constantine, the Christian Church faced a defining moment. The Council of Nicaea in 325 CE was convened to resolve disputes over doctrine, particularly the nature of Christ's divinity. But Nicaea was only the beginning of a broader campaign to define orthodoxy. Bishops like Irenaeus of Lyons and Athanasius of Alexandria took it upon themselves to determine which texts were divinely inspired and which were heretical. By the end of the 4th century, the New Testament canon was formalized, a collection of 27 books, including the 4 Gospels, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, the Acts of the Apostles, the Epistles, and Revelation. This process was not a gentle consensus but a fierce struggle. The Gospel of Thomas was condemned for its esoteric tone, lacking the narrative structure of the canonical Gospels. Its sayings, such as Logion 3, "The kingdom is inside you, and it is outside you," suggested a spirituality that bypassed institutional authority. The Gospel of Mary was dismissed, in part because it elevated Mary Magdalene to a position of spiritual leadership, challenging the male-dominated hierarchy of the Church. The Book of Enoch, with its vivid accounts of fallen angels and cosmic mysteries, was deemed too fantastical for the sober theology of the canon. In Judaism, a parallel struggle unfolded. After the destruction of the Second Temple in 70 CE, Jewish leaders faced the challenge of preserving their faith in the face of Roman oppression and internal division. The rabbis of the Pharisaic tradition sought to unify Judaism around the Torah and the emerging Mishnah. Excluding texts like the Book of Enoch and the apocalyptic writings of the Essenes, preserved in the Dead Sea Scrolls, these texts, with their emphasis on angelic interventions and messianic expectations, were seen as too radical for the standardized faith of Rabbinic Judaism. The exclusion of these texts was not merely a theological decision, but a political one. The early church and Jewish authorities sought to consolidate power, unify their communities, and establish a cohesive narrative in a world of competing ideologies. Texts that challenged authority emphasized individual revelation, or diverged from the emerging orthodoxy were suppressed, often labeled as heretical or dangerous. But what was lost in this process? What truths were buried with these forgotten scrolls? To understand their significance, we must explore their content, which opens a window into the spiritual diversity of the ancient world. Let us begin with the Gospel of Thomas, one of the most celebrated of the Nag Hammadi texts, unlike the canonical Gospels, which recount Jesus' life, death, and resurrection. The Gospel of Thomas is a collection of sayings, many of which are enigmatic and introspective. Logion 77 declares, "Split a piece of wood, and I am there. Lift up the stone, and you will find me." This suggests a pantheistic view of the divine, where Jesus is not confined to a historical figure, but is present in the very fabric of existence. Logion 3 adds, "When you know yourselves, then you will be known. You will understand that you are children of the living Father." Its emphasis on self-knowledge as a path to divinity contrasts sharply with the canonical focus on salvation through faith alone. The Secret Book of John offers a Gnostic cosmology that challenges the traditional Judeo-Christian narrative. It describes a divine realm of eons emanations of the true God and a fallen creator. It's the demiurge, who mistakenly believes himself to be the supreme deity. This demiurge, often identified with the God of the Old Testament, creates the material world as a flawed imitation of the divine. For the Gnostics, salvation lay not in worshiping this creator, but in transcending the material world through gnosis, a direct encounter with the divine spark within. The Gospel of Mary Magdalene presents a different perspective, elevating a female disciple to a position of prominence. In this text, Mary shares visions and teachings from Jesus that emphasize inner transformation and spiritual insight. When Peter challenges her authority, Mary responds with confidence, suggesting a community where women held significant roles, a notion that likely threatened the patriarchal structures of the early church. In the Jewish tradition, the Book of Enoch stands out for its vivid imagery and theological depth. This text, which influenced both early Jewish and Christian thought, describes the fall of the Watcher's angels who descended to earth, mated with human women, and taught forbidden knowledge. It also includes detailed accounts of Enoch's journeys through the heavens, where he encounters angelic hierarchies and cosmic secrets. The Book of Enoch was quoted in the New Testament, Jude 1:14-15, and revered by early Christians. It was excluded from the canon, perhaps because its apocalyptic tone and focus on angelic rebellion clashed with the emerging emphasis on earthly salvation. The Dead Sea Scrolls, discovered in Qumran, reveal a Jewish sect with a rich tradition of mystical and apocalyptic writings. Texts like the War Scroll describe a cosmic battle between the sons of light and the sons of darkness, while the Thanksgiving hymns express a deep personal connection to God. These texts highlight the diversity of Jewish thought in the Second Temple period, a diversity that was largely erased as Rabbinic Judaism took shape. Though excluded, these texts were not mere curiosities. They were sacred to the communities that cherished them, offering alternative visions of the divine visions that emphasized inner transformation, mystical knowledge, and the agency of individuals, including women and marginalized groups. Their exclusion raises profound questions. Were they suppressed because they were false? Or because they were too powerful, too threatening to the institutions that sought to control the narrative of faith? One of the most striking aspects of these forbidden texts is their inclusion of voices that were often silenced in the canonical traditions. The Gospel of Mary Magdalene is a prime example. In this text, Mary is not a peripheral figure, but a central disciple, entrusted with teachings that the male apostles struggle to comprehend. Her prominence challenges the traditional narrative, which often relegates women to secondary roles. The suppression of this text may reflect not only theological disagreements, but also cultural anxieties about female authority in a patriarchal world. Similarly, the Gnostic texts often emphasize the divine spark within all individuals, regardless of social status or gender. The Gospel of Philip speaks of the union of opposites male and female, light and dark, as a path to spiritual wholeness. This egalitarian vision stood in stark contrast to the hierarchical structures of the early church, which prioritized male leadership and institutional authority. In the Jewish context, the Dead Sea Scrolls reveal the voices of a marginalized sect, likely the Essenes, who withdrew from mainstream Judaism to pursue a life of purity and apocalyptic expectation. Their texts, such as the Community Rule, describe a community dedicated to spiritual discipline and communal living, offering a model of faith that differed from the temple-centered worship of Jerusalem. These voices, though influential in their time, were sidelined as Rabbinic Judaism became the dominant expression of Jewish faith. The exclusion of these texts reflects a broader pattern of marginalization. By silencing the voices of women, mystics, and nonconformist sects, the architects of orthodoxy shaped a narrative that reinforced their own authority. But in doing so, they buried perspectives that could have enriched the spiritual traditions of Judaism and Christianity, offering a more inclusive and diverse understanding of the divine. What do these ancient texts mean for us today? In an age of skepticism and spiritual searching, the Forgotten Scrolls offer a profound challenge and opportunity. They remind us that faith has never been monolithic, but is a tapestry woven from diverse threads, some preserved, others suppressed. Their rediscovery invites us to question the boundaries of orthodoxy and to explore the possibility that truth may lie beyond the confines of established doctrine. The Gospel of Thomas speaks to a modern audience hungry for personal spirituality. Its emphasis on self-knowledge and the immanence of the divine resonates with those who seek a direct connection to the sacred, mediated by institutions. The Gospel of Mary challenges us to reconsider the role of women in spiritual leadership, a question that remains relevant in many religious traditions today. The Book of Enoch and the Dead Sea Scrolls invite us to explore the cosmic and apocalyptic dimensions of faith. Offering a vision of a universe alive with spiritual forces, these texts also raise uncomfortable questions about the nature of religious authority. Why were certain voices privileged over others? How did political and cultural forces shape the canons of Judaism and Christianity? And what might we learn by listening to the voices that were silenced? In a world grappling with division and dogmatism, these questions are not merely academic, but deeply relevant to our understanding of faith, power, and truth. Moreover, the forbidden texts challenge us to confront our own assumptions about the divine. The Gnostic vision of a transcendent God beyond the material world invites us to question the anthropomorphic images of deity that dominate many traditions. The apocalyptic imagery of the Book of Enoch and the Dead Sea Scrolls reminds us that faith is not only about personal salvation, but also about cosmic transformation, a vision that resonates with contemporary concerns about justice, renewal, and the fate of the world. The legacy of these forgotten texts is not merely historical, but living. They have inspired generations of scholars, mystics, and seekers who have sought to reclaim the diversity of ancient faith. In the Renaissance, scholars like Marsilio Ficino rediscovered Gnostic and esoteric traditions, influencing the development of Western mysticism. In the 19th century, the discovery of texts like the Gospel of Mary sparked debates about the role of women in early Christianity. Today, the Nag Hammadi Library and the Dead Sea Scrolls continue to shape our understanding of the ancient world, challenging us to rethink the origins of our spiritual traditions. But the legacy of these texts is not without controversy. Some view them as dangerous heresies, distortions of the true faith. Others see them as treasures, preserving truths that were too radical for their time. The truth likely lies in the tension between these perspectives. The forgotten scrolls are neither infallible nor irrelevant. They're human documents reflecting the struggles, hopes, visions of communities seeking to understand the divine. As we stand at the crossroads of history, the forgotten scrolls call us to a deeper engagement with faith. They remind us that the divine is not confined to a single narrative, but is revealed in the multiplicity of human experience. They challenge us to listen to the marginalized, to question authority, and to seek the truth with open hearts and fearless minds. The forgotten scrolls are more than relics of a bygone era. They are a testament to the resilience of the human spirit, the courage of those who dared to write their truth, and the enduring mystery of the divine. As we unearth these texts, we are not merely excavating the past, but reclaiming a part of ourselves, a part that longs for connection, meaning, and transcendence. What does it mean to remember the forgotten? It means to honor the voices that were silenced, to question the narratives that have shaped our world, and to embrace the possibility that truth is broader, deeper, and more complex than we have been told. It means to stand, like the shepherds of Nag Hammadi or the scribes of Qumran, at the threshold of the unknown, ready to uncover the secrets that lie hidden in the shadows. So, I ask you, which of these forgotten texts speaks to you? Is it the mystical wisdom of the Gospel of Thomas, the bold voice of Mary Magdalene, or the cosmic visions of Enoch? Share your thoughts, join the conversation, and let us continue this journey together. For in the forgotten scrolls, we may find not only the past, but the future of faith, a future where all voices are heard, all truths are explored, and the divine is encountered in the fullness of its mystery.